those in who are already waiting, and Marie, I give you a sign so that you can start. So, okay, I think you can start.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new ELTA webinar. My name is Marie Bernard. I'm here with Julia from ELTA as well. And we have special, Julia's here. We have special guests from HighQ, whom I'll introduce in a minute. While we wait for a couple of more people to connect, I just want to give you a couple of news from our next webinar, because we are working hard and producing content also during the summer. And the next ELTA webinar will be on the 15th of July, same time, 7 p.m. CET. And the topic is legal tech and cybersecurity. We're going to give you a sneak peek, a sneak preview at what's hot, what's happening at US law firms, which, as you can assume, may be very hot as well for us in Europe. We're also working with a longer term view to prepare the ELTA conference. It's coming back. It will be in Madrid. I cannot say too much at this stage, but stay tuned. It's going to be at the end of November. So we'll give you information about that shortly. Be prepared for an awesome event. I know that our Spanish members, ambassadors, and board members are working super hard to make something awesome happen here. But so today we're gathered for another ELTA live webinar. When I say live, it's also going to be recorded in a minute. So both the presentation and your questions, which you'll have the opportunity to ask using the chat function, obviously, and also at the end. The topic for today is digital transformation journey, how to use technology to drive change in your law firm or in your corporate legal department. And with us this evening, we have Sebastiaan Bos from HighQ. I hope I pronounce your name right, Sebastiaan. Sebastiaan is the Global Director of Solutions at HighQ and has been in the business of legal tech and legal solutions for more than 15 years. He counted each and every one of his clients. It had many of them throughout Europe, and I think it's now 150 and possibly another one coming up in Germany soon. But I think that's enough for my silly introduction. Sebastiaan, over to you for more serious talks, right?
Super, thank you very much. Yeah, and I counted all of them, so it's exactly 150. Just wanted to make sure on that one. I thank you all for joining. I think the weather is great outside, so I will just keep you here or inside for another 35 or 40 minutes. Obviously, we have some time for the Q&A and the questions in the chat a bit later on. So indeed, yes, for today, it is one of my favorite topics. To be honest, the digital transformation journey, you can also call it your innovation strategy or your innovation journey. It's pretty much the same, but what we're trying to figure out is how you can drive change, how you can work your change through your corporate legal department or your law firm. Obviously, as HighQ, we are a technology company. I'm a technologist, so I'm always interested in the technology part. The only thing is, what we've seen is that it obviously needs to have the right place. Not everything is fixed with technology only. Would be great, but it isn't. That's going to be the first part. I just wanted to help you position the right way, how you can use the technology, give you some practical examples, how it works the best, because that's always hopefully something nice to learn from. Then I will take you through a bit of the market analysis, some of the trends we see. I will not do any predictions, so I'll leave that to other people. And then we'll end with some of the things we could learn from a corporate legal and a law firm point of view. So I mix it up a bit. So if you're working at a law firm or a corporate legal department, great. Both of you will have something maybe to learn from today. So let's keep cracking. Just one thing, and this is always how I start. So if you are in a law firm or in a corporate legal department, and if you are worried around, is there enough technology out there to choose from? Or is there enough technology out there that can fix my problems? Is there technology that can help me? Just go on Google and find the vast amount of startups and technology companies that are out there, which we are one of them. I think we can say today, look, don't worry about the technology. There's enough to pick from. from fancy blockchain AI stuff all the way down to more standard technology which you can choose, but there's enough to pick from. So let's take one, educated guess, everything from a technology point of view, what we can pick from. There's enough out there to choose. So let's not worry about that one too much, right? There's enough. Let's see what we can do. What will we have today? Because there's enough to play with, but it needs to come in the right order. And that order, and this is a bit of and this is not new. I didn't make this up. This already exists from the 70s and the 80s. Different industries using the same way of figuring out what the best way is to use and to deploy technology in process-driven environments. So that people, process, and technology. You maybe heard it more about it, but it is really, really helpful to position the technology in the right place, because otherwise we're just doing technology for technology that doesn't work. You get adoption issues, people don't use it, done. So it needs to be in the order people, process, and technology. So let me just, mark that down, what that actually means. So you got that covered. So the people part is all about you as the corporate legal department, or you as the law firm, want to change because your clients are walking away, pushing you, asking questions. Maybe the business sees you as a cost factor and not interested in you anymore. You're just, a corporate legal department just wasting money. Those are the easy ones. Right? You got an urgent need that needs to be fixed. But here you need to work with the partners, your clients, your business, to figure out, okay, what are the issues we are addressing? Why are we need to change something? Why do we need to innovate? This is really important, because if you don't have this need, or there's no client that wants your client services, you don't have to do it. If your business finds you working great, super. You can just pack up, do your work, and go on. I will not talk about the fact that, yes, we all know that the world is changing and that clients are pushing. That is a whole discussion which should be clear now. If you believe in it, yes or no, that all depends on what your clients are asking or what your business asks from you from a corporate legal department point of view. Here, things like legal design, lean design thinking will all help you map down what exactly is where you can help your client, what kind of business solution he is after. Same thing goes for a corporate legal department. Here you can also figure out what is the business actually wants from the legal department. How can it be their business partner? This is a real key part. People drive change, right? Not the technology, it's people driving the change. That is the first factor we need to work with. So let's assume that all covers and uncovers possible problems with you, which you'll have with your clients or with your business. Good. That next step will be, before you look at the technology still, right? Process. So you need to map down what that actually means. So if your clients, if you're working at a law firm and your clients say, look, we're really unhappy because, we want to have some standard due diligence work from you. It's way too expensive. If that is an issue you like to fix, you want to map down the whole process of that specific matter to figure out where are you losing time. That's not always in the document review part. We have done it a few times and we map it all down, and it seems that the document review part, surely it's human effort. It always takes time, but they actually spend more time on producing the report, the output. So if they start, automating or looking for technology there, it's actually more effective than look at the more shiny AI stuff. So here that's why it's so important to figure out what the exact process is of the exact problem you like to solve, because that forms the basis of the solution. And if you don't know exactly how that process works, it becomes really difficult. So if you're corporate legal and your business is complaining that producing an NDA takes 24 hours or 48 hours, takes way too long, you need to figure out, okay, where we're losing time. To be honest, it's sometimes an open door, but this step is forgotten quite quickly because, it's something difficult to figure it out. You need to spend some time on it, but it's really, really key, because if we have that process clear down or written down, you can use process map for this, or there are many, many tools you can use for this, then that technology part becomes far more easier, right? Because now the last step, we can map that technology from a solution point of view to that actual process and to that actually change we need to drive. And there's no red race around who uses the most technology or the best, or, you don't have to put blockchain in front of everything. you're trying to use the technology which is appropriate for the problem at hand. Hence, the process you're trying to automate, or in the process, which elements of the process need the technology parts. You don't need to use it for everything. You want to use it for the right part in the process. And this is the reason why this order is so important. Like I said, I worked all my life for technology vendors. I did nothing else. It happens quite a lot that we come at a law firm or corporate legal department, look at the technology, they have no idea what to change. But the people part is not covered. They don't really have an idea how they actually work as a team, as a practice group, or as a company, which makes it obviously for us quite difficult. And I say, oh, look, this is the technology which will fix your problem, because we don't even know what that actually is. So that's why it's so key to follow that in the right order. Don't change it around. Don't get too much bogged down around it. It always needs to be really advanced technology. That's great if it's needed, but don't be afraid to also use some low-tech solutions if that is needed, right? It's all about the problem you had in the people phase, the process at hand, and then mapping it to the right technology. The reason is that you like to follow this step is that obviously you're optimizing your process, people get involved, the technology part will help you driving the process at hand, and there's a great element in this whole process which is really interesting, which is a bit of a side effect, which is sometimes forgotten, but it's really key, and there are some big players, and we'll talk about it a bit later on, which are really putting this down, because as soon as you automate some of the work using technology, in this case, to keep it simple, there's a side effect that is called predictability, because you can predict the outcome much better when the technology gets involved, because human labor in any shape or form is always unpredictable, because people sick, holidays, have a bad day, it's 30 degrees out there, that all influence obviously what the outcome will be from a time point of view or from a business point of view. So here we see a bit of the benefits when you go for standardized legal work or legal services, is that it will help make work more predictable. So think about the fact that if that work becomes a bit more predictable, that if you need to do an alternate price, so not the billable hour, but it needs to be a capped fee or a fixed price, if part of that work is predictable, it helps you set the right margin. If you're a corporate legal department and you can standardize some of your legal work, that means you can predict, obviously you don't have to spend time on it, so you free up FTEs for the department to put somewhere else. But how much you can actually predict by just calculating how much time you don't want to spend on the process, which is just or completely or partially, digitalized or use the technology for. So this is the end product, obviously, and this is, you don't have to go for 100% standardized legal work at day one. Obviously, this is a gradual process. Keep in mind that if you get to half, 50% of work, 50% is you and 50% is predictable, let's say, standardized legal services. That is already really interesting, because you only have to worry now about 50% of the work, which really saves you half, right? So this is where we would like to come. This is where a lot of the law firms and corporate legal departments are trying to move into, because the more standardized you get, you can start packaging up, different price models become more interesting, and then you can scale it out. Obviously, within a law firm and a corporate legal department, especially law firms, obviously, this pretty much works good for standardized work. The one-offs, the big transactions, the big projects, forget those are fine. You want to focus on the more standard work, the standard transactions, the standard work, just to be on that right path. Corporate legal department, obviously, you have the different elements to standardize your legal work. So this is the bit of the side effect, which is really interesting, and we'll come back about this later during the webinar, because, like I said, some of these new faces on the market actually focusing on this standardized legal work much more.
Sebastian, there's one question from Alexander. He's asking, what is the difference between legal tech and law tech?
Oh, shall we do that on the end?
Yeah, maybe.
Because that is a hard one.
Okay.
We'll come to that on the end, because we have a slide which focuses a bit on the end on that part. So we can just, I will take that along.
Perfect.
So if you look at the technology part, so if we just zoom in on that one, and maybe it's interesting for you guys if you work in the corporate legal department. So maybe you think, oh, guys, we're all alone, and everybody else around me having different issues. But there's a bit of a combining factor, which we've seen see here in the European market when it comes down to corporate legal departments. I will do the same thing for the law firm, so you can just benefit from that a bit. But if you look at corporate legal itself, there are a few elements, obviously, where the corporate legal departments are working with in different areas, obviously in different levels. But if you look at legal spend management on the left corner, it's picking up more and more where the corporate legal departments are monitoring their law firms. This could be just giving insights and checking the invoices, and it can go all the way down to tracking down if law firms are changing their hourly rates, and you can give them a call to ask them why that was changed. But it's really a factor that's popping up. The same thing goes for the insourcing, especially on transactional work, like their own data rooms and their own due diligence work, especially the corporates, which are quite M&A heavy. They got their own M&A teams now. You see them more and more. Also FTE being insourced, so they hire people to do the work themselves, because in the end that is pretty much cheaper, and then the law firms can just interact on some of these deals, but a lot of the things, especially on the DD work, they do themselves. The contract management and OM management obviously are more for the internal corporate legal department to be more, let's say, self-sufficient. I think a lot of the corporate legal departments here are now on the mode to basically have their own technology, so they can actually combine their contracts in one place or their assets in one place instead of floating around in mailboxes. So you see this first level of corporate legal departments are using the technology themselves to be more efficient. That is the more for less when their budget's under pressure. How can they be more efficient themselves? The lower end, the legal service request and the self-service, this is really the standard legal work they're trying to get, so that the business can actually request for an NDA and generate it on the fly, versus emailing in that NDA request and then the legal department needs to act on it. They start providing these dashboards and these portals where the business can generate NDAs or standard legal agreements themselves. So here, document automation, the contract automation really takes a play also for the corporate legal department. It's really picking up as a whole. Meta management, you can actually, for the bigger corporate legal departments, you can also tie back project management. So when the issues occur and they need to work with outside counsel, they can work in this structure of meta management and tracking down time skills and time management, but that's typically for the somewhat bigger corporate legal departments. Interesting thing here, obviously, is that these corporate legal departments are start using technology too, right? So they're getting more and more used to the fact that technology can help them too, and that will be pushed down, obviously pushed up to their law firms at some point. I will not be surprised that we will see that coming up more and more. If you look at the law firm side of things, just a few notable things, obviously, we'd like to put out. Legal service delivery, a lot of the law firms nowadays are looking into the fact, how can they deliver the due diligence report, the closing documents in a bit more efficient way than just chunking in an email or sending it across. Same thing goes for working with clients. From a security point of view, the mail becomes more and more difficult. So working together with clients outside of emails is becoming more and more a nice service to add, just as an extra. I think the biggest one we see now, and a lot of time and efforts being spent on it, is of course legal project management. Also here, ambition levels are changing, right? The one law firm is just using project management. They're sending across an Excel sheet with a status update. Fine, that's one part of the solution, to say, look, we keep the client up to date on how we're progressing with the work. It can go all the way down to project planning, to resource planning, to financial overviews around where you sit in the project with dashboards, but it's all depending on how the law firm likes to see, or like the first steps in that transformation process around legal project management. Let's do steps first. If the law firm is comfortable with the first step, great, let's go for the next step. So it's not the race that everybody's doing legal project management, that is everybody the same. No, it's around the fact that these law firms are picking up the change. So look, we want to serve and give our clients a better service. So let's start with these first steps, and we want to scale out. That is a bit of the mantra where we're sitting with these law firms here. On the lower end, the legal processes, Rec and fintech is really new. There are some specific law firms which are aiming for that one, but legal processes like DPO processes or GDPR or VAT services, so really business solutions for clients, which are being built with different tools and different technology, obviously. But it's really nice. It's an indicator that that people, process, and technology part that starts working for some of these law firms to talk with their clients and say, look, how can we help you? Instead of chunking lawyers at you, how can we be more helpful with that more holistic business solution in the end? One little step, and then I will give you some practical example, because I always get this question like, yeah, that's great, but we want to see some real life examples on it. I will give you those. Just before this one, just a little tip, or maybe you guys already know this, so then don't see it as a tip, but just as a confirmation, is that obviously the driving change or innovation or trying to get this across in the organization is always a challenge within law firms and within corporate legal departments. But obviously, you need to have a role within the organization that actually connects the business process, the people part, obviously that to the technology, to any kind of technology, right? It's not specifically around one, but you need to have someone in the role. And you see legal counsels now getting the legal tech role, or you're getting obviously the law firms with their innovation teams or the legal project management teams obviously need to have those people that also can map it down to the technology. One thing for the law firms among us, that's typically where we see it, the taking risk, right? If you want to do change, if you want to do innovation, or how you like to call it, sometimes you need to take a gamble, right? It's not always carved down or written in stone that it will be 100% successful. Sometimes you just need to take a little risk and get it done, right? Just do it at some point. But I see this quite a lot, that we're talking to them for a long time. And we see them thinking about it, but never really tried to do it, or try one partner, one client, see how it goes, get that feedback. You do it for something, right? You talk with the client, so you want to provide them with the right solution. So want to just do it at some point. To get that feedback is quite key, because that will prove your strategy, or that will prove your way of thinking, or that will prove and help you sell it to the rest of the business. One other thing I just wanted to pick out, because I always like to do that, obviously the communication, the collaboration part of it, that any kind of change you're trying to drive, it's always a team effort, right? You can't do this on your own. You need everybody around you, but also don't forget the technology vendors, right? We always ask, we always trying to help them out. See it as a triangle: you, the law firm, the client, and a technology part, right? The same thing goes for corporate legal department: it's you, the business, and the technology part. If you work together, you can actually drive also a bit more change through that organization. Just keep that in mind. One last thing, like I said, don't spend huge amount of time on put everything on the PowerPoint, and then it just takes too much time and all the good efforts are gone. The technology nowadays, you don't have to spend a lot of time or even money around massive IT projects to get this all delivered. There are many tools out there which are all cloud-based, which you can deploy in literally a day. Start making your first MVP or most valuable product, just to test it out, get the client feedback, just prove that you provided the right value back to the client, because that is quite key in this whole process. That obviously when you provide that information to a client, it needs to have a value. If you automate something for your corporate legal department, it needs to prove the value back to the business, because otherwise you're just doing it for nothing, or it needs to fit your more global strategy if you need to, let's say, cut down on your legal spend. Sorry for this commercial break, but I just thought one slide, okay, fair enough. And I'll do this quickly, obviously. This is how we try to help as a technology company. We call this, we're trying to help our corporate legal department clients and law firm clients. We take it from the platform approach, which means that for anything that a law firm or the corporate legal department like to develop, could be standard things like their legal project management initiative, or when their clients are pushing to change their legal service delivery, or the corporate legal department says, look, I want to do my contract management and I want to automate some of my legal work in this. Great. So instead of you end up with 7 or 8 different technology stacks, we want to centralize this on one platform. So this is how we try to help from that technology part. So if you want to drive change, instead of doing it on 7 different systems, you would like to do it on one. So you don't have to, train and adopt 6 or 7 different platforms who just wanted to do this in one big corporate legal or law firm platform, obviously. So always like to take that little moment for the small commercial break. So like I said, I know that there's always a question which we get. I understand, Alex. I just wanted to set the tone, how you could use the technology in the right order. And if you do it, then there are some nice examples. I will take the law firm approach. I will show a bit more about corporate legal a bit later on. But it's just interesting to see. And obviously, well, if you're really negative, everything that a law firm put on the website, I actually know what they've done. So that makes me, obviously, the proof of the fact that actually that it's true what they've done. Some people even doubt what law firms put on their website that are actually true. But I can pretty much say even all of these, they're actually true, and they exist, and they do it. So this is, I took one from every region. So before people come from different regions, I look at that is not applicable for my area. So I got 4 different areas in the world that actually we had that people, process, and technology part, and then we ended up in that solution building stuff. So here's a Norwegian law firm. So here you have a classic example, right? So instead of the fact that the law firm is just pushing lawyers to them, they took this the other way around. So these shipbuilders, which are quite big in Norway, come to the law firm. They have a business issue. So there's the whole people part. So law firm is listening to them. So great, you know what? Typically we would throw you a couple of lawyers at you. But you know what? We're going to listen to you, see what we can do, come up with a different kind of solution. So here we have this, this people part is now different, right? And they have an opportunity to work with different shipbuilders. Great. So the process being written down or drafted down. So look, what do we need? Apparently there's a great standard for it. That is super. So that makes it more easy. So what's being built here is this portal where these shipbuilders can go in and generate contracts based on a template on the fly, provide with some information around it. Great, 24/7, super. So no fancy technology as such, but here's a classic example where the law firm thinks differently. That is a great change. For me, that is the innovation part of it. So instead of chunking lawyers at them, they found a good solution that actually has a value and that can be used among a group of clients. Perfect example. United Kingdom, a bit of the same area. I just added this one because Osborne Clarke takes this a bit further down because they have a specific innovation group and a specific partner which works on this. And they have a bit of the mantra within Osborne Clarke is that they already got to a certain mode in the people part that when they spot potential business issues, that there's a specific team of people that actually looks at how can we fix that from a technology point of view. So they already have by default look at, okay, we will have one or multiple technology options. Here's the business issue at hand. Let's process down what is needed and then find some of the technology to support it. So to really make that business solution for a client. And here, obviously, they actually work together with the client. And then you can also see how that interaction goes. Then you're really becoming that business partner, fixing it. Great. Another, I think, one level up when we saw from the previous example, how you can actually work together with a client on this one. Surely that they value that solution, you can see here on the quote, because that is really where it comes down to. The client needs to value that that solution, because otherwise it was pointless, because then you just do it for whatever it is. This one is even coming with some more angles in it, which are interesting to note. So this is Course. It's an Australian law firm. It's about 200-300 people. So Australia, that is a pretty big one. So here we have a whole new scenario. Here is Course, is obviously a high-end law firm. And here we have a business and industry, which they don't really are in normally, because this is around startups. And obviously a startup doesn't want to spend any money at a big law firm. They want to spend money on ping pong tables and scrum meetings, obviously, if these are IT startups or tech startups. But obviously the interesting thing is and a law firm obviously has no interest in the startup because they have no money. Let's call it that one. So done here. But obviously when these people are looking for investment rounds or investors are coming in, then it becomes more interesting. So here what they're doing is they let them sign up the startups. into a portal. In that portal, the startup can actually generate employment contracts, get some information, store documents for little date rooms so the investors can look at the corporate document, some shareholder agreements, just the basic stuff and services that startup actually needs. It's free, you can sign up, great. The course will help you find investors if you move forward. So they're really making this bond together with this new group of, let's say, clients that actually never served. And they brand it, you can find it on their website. So from a marketing point of view, you get out. So this is then really getting everything. So it's like the business solution, the money-wise, we don't billable hour this one, obviously. So this is more subscription, it's €0, but you get the drift that this moves to the second part, is to find and drive business value from that. And you can also market it down, obviously. This is a nice example what they have done. You can just Google this, read on the website, it's just open, so there's no secrets there. This one is from Canada. I just wanted to take this as an example, again, to explain that if you provide these digital services or client services to these corporate legal departments or the corporates as such, make sure that it provides the right value. Vasken is really nice because they work really closely together with their clients. So they sit down with them and they demonstrate, and they sit in the panel and they demonstrate the solution they made. And then they let the client feedback, with little quotes we see here, but they actually work and collaborate quite closely with their clients to get the feedback. And that feedback means that they provide the right value. So it's not about the amount of technology they actually sell, but it's around the business value they create with the solution or the problem which we're at hand for their client. So here's always a good example how you can actually, from a positive point of view, work with your client, do that people, process, and technology part, and actually drive value into that client. And they really appreciate it here, obviously. And then you have an opportunity to again market this. Also a public video. So if you're interested in this, you can Google this. I think it's on YouTube. Just type in Vasken Edge, you'll find this little video. Have a look at it, right? But I just wanted to use it as a few examples, how that people, process, and technology part, when you go outwards, how it can actually help driving this innovation to your clients, right? And this is, again, for me, the digital transformation journey, right? You're using digital tools to transform the way how you worked before. And these are all steps, little steps, big steps, but it's, again, when you start moving forwards, then we start moving yourself into that journey. Good. Let me just, like I said, move to the last section, where we're just going to zoom in a bit on the corporate legal side of things, where these people sit now, and then actually where they're moving, which could maybe be helpful also for the law firms among us to see a bit where they go, because that is always interesting. And then we got some other trends. So what we can learn from each other is also really nice. It's a nice enigma here. Keep in mind, for the people that work at the law firm here, the corporate legal departments, especially from a legal operation point of view at any level, right? It could be quite simple still here in Europe. The US is really pushing farther down. So legal operations is already much more explicit there. A lot of corporate legal departments are really far down the line with this whole segment. You see European ones picking up more and more, taking little steps out of this one. You see that at the memberships at CLOC and ACC. If you're a corporate legal department and in this webinar, if you want to have best practices or advice around legal operations, forget the technology part. Is really process-driven legal work. In these different sections, they obviously have some great content. You see a lot of these corporate legal departments looking at and taking memberships in here and joining meetings and joining conferences. And there's where you will see that if that interest picks up, obviously also from them, they can look in the details, obviously, to figure out how they can use technology to drive them further down the line. And this is interesting because if these corporate legal departments obviously are looking at the technology, start becoming more and more educated around what the technology can do. And there's really technology out there specifically for corporate legal departments. In these areas, which we see here, definitely, obviously there are little sidetracks, boardroom tools, and there are some little sidetracks left and right, but in general, these corporate legal departments zooming in on these elements and trying to find the technology for it. Again, in different levels, not everybody has a massive corporate legal departments, but you see them driving more and more towards that legal operations and technology part. The reason why I think there's maybe obvious reasons, but just to give you a few, most corporate legal departments are under pressure from a price point of view to cut spend or to prove business value or be more active in the business scenarios. And obviously, again, the people process part is important, but also here the technology part can definitely help. So for instance, creating those self-service portals where the business can generate contracts, for instance, is a classic example how you can drive value back to the business, and then the corporate legal department can spend the time somewhere else. The insourcing part is a bit tricky left and right, obviously, because not everybody has enough manpower to do it. But especially also on the contract management part, on the management part of the process, we'll see those trends popping up more and more. And the more the technology part will be part of the corporate legal, let's say, entity, the more they will also push the law firms, obviously, to help them out, providing the right business solutions. So look, yeah, we're doing this with technology. Why you guys are not doing the same? The other one, which is quite interesting, which we really see popping up, and this is quite interesting. For the report here, which I just took the quotes from, is just an indicator because it's based on the US, so that their spend is totally different. But it gives you a bit of a sign. You see this more and more, and also corporate legal departments start doing this more and more, is that obviously the buying habits are also slightly changing. I know in Europe, the alternative legal service providers are a bit slightly different, but the Elevates and the Big Four, which we'll consider on it, except Elevate doesn't really see them as alternatives, so if they watch this back, sorry for that one. We work with them, and it is great. They have this different approach, obviously, and again, their livelihood sits around in legal services and standardized legal work. Hence, again, we talked about it before. So these guys are on it, and they have the money and the platform to spend on a Riverloaf, and EY bought them for a good reason, right? So you can get there. You get standardized legal services from them. You see that the buying habits of these corporate legal departments are slightly shifting. In Europe, it goes step by step, but we also see it more and more in our corporate legal clients that they also start changing the buying habits. And it will start at standardized legal services. Hence, that's why this whole technology shift and innovation strategy and journeys, if you focus a bit on that standardized legal work, can be quite interesting, because it's easier actually where these other guys with their platforms are definitely aiming on. I put this in here because I just like this, and not from a quote or whatever point of view, but it's just it's nice to see a bit of a trend. This is really specific, obviously, and I'm quite sure if people read this, but you can Google this because I'll find this always quite funny. The only thing is what I want to say, you'll see I will probably see this more and more, is that if you as a law firm provide legal services, or say you're providing them, or you say, look, we have innovation, or we do innovation, or whatever, and these guys already start doing this, is that they actually will ask you, so your clients actually ask you, okay, then it's great, can you then demonstrate to me how you've done better last year and how you do better next year for me, right? So here the corporate legal departments start dictating more and more what they expect from the law firms. Which is really interesting, right? So now there's not really something you can put on your website. So look, we innovate. Now you're really getting forced by the fact that, okay, great, but then what did you do for me then? And how it benefited me as your client in this year and last year in this case. Really cool. You can Google this actually, because it's quite funny, because I think they invited in that Trusted Advisor Forum, I think about 50 law firms, and I think even 13 or something never showed up. Some of them just send a standard presentation. So you can imagine it's not really in the law firm's DNA yet, maybe to really, articulate what then their, added value was for these clients. But this is where you need to go to, right? This is the last step. Little innovation steps are great, but it needs to, anything you develop on your own needs to be beneficial for your clients or for a client group. That's obviously where the technology needs to come from. Also where the innovation needs to come from. So that's not specifically you do with the technology part, but that's actually what you do from the business value point of view. And what can you learn from each other? This is a bit of a classic slide. I'm not quite sure if people have seen it. Maybe you've seen it coming by. I took this one from RG Consulting. This just shows a bit if law firms and corporate legal departments want to learn from each other in this, in their innovation strategies or in their digital transformation strategies. This is really funny, right? So, well, it depends what you think funny, obviously, but you can see and it is a bit of the balance and a disconnect where on the left hand, you got the value by clients and the other one is the value by partners, right? So you can see client services and project management on the left. Hence, this is all business solutions and, give me a process around it. And then all the way on the end, obviously the partners of the law firm thinks that their expertise is what their clients value the most. Probably it is, but then probably not framed in an email or in an invoice, but framed around the client service and the business solution. This disconnect will always happen. Obviously, it's not a given that it will fix everything. But probably we will have the same thing. Well, not on this imbalance, I hope. But the thing is, what we can learn from this. This is what we see quite a lot. Which not always goes really well, but we can learn from each other, obviously, is make that is work together, right? The law firm, you need to work together with your corporate legal department to figure out that these business solutions you make are the right ones. So if you really think that your expertise is the one that your client needs, just benchmark it, right? Just test it out. Surely you have your client surveys and your annual client reviews, but for other law firms, what do you do with that information, right? So can you really signal what your clients want? Same thing goes for corporate legal departments with their business. Can you really benchmark what these corporate legal departments or what your business actually wants from you, right? If you don't sit down with them, ask them the right questions, right? So how can we help you in this business process? We see that this disconnect will always be there if the communication or collaboration between the parties you need to drive the value is not there or not being done or hardly being done. So keep that in mind. That we see this still a lot that things are being done without asking the client, or corporate legal departments are thinking about innovation and change, and the business not really waiting for that. They're actually waiting for something else. The only way I have to get across that is obviously talk with each other or next to each other, obviously. Sit down. Keep in mind also that your technology vendors, and if that is needed, obviously, I'm more than happy to talk with you guys too. Just one last remark, which I like to put in there. I think everybody that's joining these kind of webinars or go to conferences, probably all smart people. We all have our strategies and our ideas and our visions. Definitely, and I keep that going. We all have it. Thinking big is a great thing, but at some point, starting small, start doing it is probably a good thing to benchmark your wider strategy without doing anything or actually doing real results. You can never benchmark a strategy or figure out you're on the right track. So this is a bit of a mantra we use. I definitely always want to use is look, great visions, super, but also practical examples, practical solutions, which can actually fix something for the corporate legal department and the law firm. That is what we're trying to do, right? And these sometimes can just start small. They don't have to be massive at day one, but they will gradually move into that wider strategy to prove it. But just doing it, start small, is always our best advice, right? So just keep on doing that. I think we already had one question left, which I didn't answer. That I will do, so I can just, like I said, we can. That was just it for me. Like I said, I hope for everybody that there was something in it, that maybe you learned something or not. Like I said, I tried to give you the right information. We will share obviously the presentation and the webinar for the people that want to listen to it again or share it, and that will be sent through the ELTA part. So we'll leave some time in for questions if there are any.
So we have the one question in the chat from Alexander about the legal tech and law tech difference. There are no further questions at the moment in the chat. You can also unmute your microphones and ask your question directly to Sebastiaan if you want to.
Good. Let me just answer then the difference between the legal tech and the law tech.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, to be honest, perfect question. And to be honest, everybody from a legal tech point of view, there's already a lot of debate what we consider around legal tech. Same thing goes for law tech. Like I said, for me, it all comes down to the fact that the technology part, as we've seen here, is part of a solution. And if that's that solution package we're trying to call legal tech or law tech or whatever tech we want to call it, I'm just trying to tie it back to the proper solution we're trying to fix. Because everything is legal tech, and everything could be law tech at some end. So sorry, I know it's a half political answer, but the terminology we sometimes use in this industry is sometimes really tricky to get a head around what we actually mean with legal tech or actually mean with law tech. So I just like to focus on what does it give me as a solution, what kind of technology makes perfect sense there, something big, something fancy or not, or it's a blockchain or something simple, and that provides the solution and that has a value, and that's what you sell, or that's what you bring to your clients, or that's what you bring to your corporate legal department. That is, for me, the whole story. Anything left, Julia, on the chat? Or any questions?
No further questions on the chat at the moment.
I know it's a warm day today in most parts of Europe, so.
Okay. So I think if there are no other questions, we can wrap up. Thank you a lot, Sebastiaan, for joining us today with your expertise.
Thank you very much.
As mentioned, I will put the video online on YouTube tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.